What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Scouting Grounds Open Qualifier hosted by Upsurge Esports. And tonight we've got a banger of a series, the quarterfinals here. And we're here with Dawn Shock versus Lotus Bloom. And I'm going to be your host, Alk Battery. And tonight I'm joined by Rebel Fox. Rebel Fox, how you feeling, man?
I'm sorry?
How you feeling?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. I'm ready to get into this, and already we're kind of flying through the bands here. Riven, Kha'Zix, Kled, and Tristana, and I think the Kled and Tristana are pretty telltale, specifically coming out towards Dawn, as we've seen Shupian on that last game play Tristana pretty amazingly. Yeah,
both of these champions are super high priority in solo lanes right now. Kled is like absolutely close to one of the top champions you can play, especially in that top lane. There's actually quite a bit of solo lane presence here. Both of the Akali, the Riven, the Kled, and the Tristana all solo lane bans, and then both have their preference of jungler. Both these teams, obviously, they kind of know what they're... It just kind of points to them knowing exactly what they want to go for in this draft.
Yeah, and so far already we're seeing the Sejuani ban away from Dawn. We've only been able to see that coming out from them, and I think it's really interesting because we see that a lot of the power picks are really open. Obviously, Azir Corki has been very, very popular, but we see that Sivir and Yuumi are still available here.
That they are. What's shocking also is the priority on Sylas here. Obviously, the flexibility is kind of what they're going for, but it's shocking to see him this early. I doubt that they would have not been able to take him at least in second rotation. So clearly they have plans for the Sylas pickup. As you said, yeah, Yuumi, a couple other enchanters absolutely available as well. But Sivir Jarvan, super potent combo, super good ADC and jungle combination, especially for finding engages. Lotus kind of looks like they want to be aggressive really, really quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And so coming in, like you were saying, the flexibility of Sylas is still available. Now that we see that Kled is off the table, do you think that priority for Aatrox kind of starts to rise now? And even from this, I mean, Dawn picking up Jhin is not something that we typically tend to see, right?
If I had to assume this is a lot of comfort for the side of Dawn Shock, because it's clearly like Sylas is like a pick that is fallen out of priority, at least for the most part, especially out of first pick priority. So to me, Jhin, Sylas' first two picks is mostly comfort for Dawn Shock, not really them aiming for, meta shots. Otherwise, we probably see quite a few other champions.
And they do have a lot of room to be able to do this. We see the Yuumi now coming through, but this is a best of 3. Throughout the tournament, these guys have only been playing best of 1s, so you do have a little bit of room to kind of, try out some comfort, make sure that you're getting into the zone. Now we see Lotus closing it out with a Nautilus pick. Sandpaper has just been on Nautilus duty every single game in this tournament, in this qualifier. So really, if there's one person you kind of got to throw down and be like, hey, we're going to definitely take this. And against the Yuumi, it's got to feel really good for that bot lane.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, Nautilus just as a champion is super well-rounded. He gets aggravate or people get aggressive against him pretty commonly, but he can mitigate damage with the shield, the hook, the ultimate, just insanely good. And then, as you said, against this Yuumi, he's really fighting one champion at a time. So that lockdown, that CC you can bring to the table as Nautilus is all the more effective if Jhin is the only target you have to hit him on.
Yeah. Coming through now, we see the Aatrox and the Gangplank. We'd already touched a little bit on this Aatrox. I'd be interested to see if that's what they're going to ban next. But coming in, what are these last couple picks that you're expecting now that we've seen a little bit more of this draft start to flesh out?
Yeah, it's funny. So many of these solo lane bans are coming through. It wouldn't shock me to see them kind of shy away from it because this pool is rapidly shrinking. We could end up just seeing tanks being thrown in the top lane, which is something we don't see very often at all. Yeah, we're seeing even more solo laners just get taken away little by little. Another Fizz. Yeah, they are terrified of some of these solo lane presence.
Jace has got to be next, right? Jace has got to be next.
Yeah, I mean that's something. I don't know if priority is there for the Jace. I don't know whether Lotus is willing to take something like that. And again, also, if you're on the side of Dawn Shock, it's possible that they want to take the Jace and they're not afraid of Lotus taking it. So this is a mind game they can play with this draft pick here or this ban here. Yeah. Not going to risk it.
We've got a couple seconds. There we go, Jason automatically hovering that Xerath. We did see that this was played before for Eclipse. So interested to see how they're going to try and play this around. Do you think that we might even see... I honestly, I'm kind of flabbergasted right now. Like you were saying, a lot of these solo picks are just completely busted out immediately, and there's a lot of comfort already going around. So now we see that the solo lanes should be coming through for Dawn. Do you think that there might still be a possibility for a jungler here for Dawn Shock?
Yeah, I think jungler comes first, and I think they're going to pick a top laner for priority because I think you can put Sylas in this lane instead of going to opt for Echo. I guess it could still be flex jungle. More than likely, it's going to dive in mid lane. You don't really see a top lane anymore, which is shocking because Sylas would be a good pickup into Xerath. So yeah, expect here to see something maybe out of the ordinary. Like I said, it should be a jungler coming out unless they're flexing Echo there, which would be rare to see.
Yeah. Again, Corki and Azir are still available, guys. I think it's really interesting that we still haven't, but there's still a lot of magic damage here for Dawn Shock, so you gotta wonder. Trundle, okay. You do have a lot of stuff that you can tank bust with that, but interesting to see that we've already kind of fallen all the way down into Trundle being picked up here.
Yeah, I'm also curious to see as to whether or not Trundle is flexed at all, because typically you see him as a jungler. He's not terrible into the Jarvan, but you can take him top if you really want to, just kind of depending on who your matchup is.
I mean, if this Fiora pick, I don't...
All right, okay.
I'm like pretty sure this is not a great matchup for Fiora going into early on in the game, but maybe walk me through this. How do you feel about Lotus's team composition here? It feels a little bit all over the place in some areas.
Yeah, so Lotus's composition, like the Sivir, Jarvan, Nautilus started off super good. Like that's pretty clean team fight composition. You can move them in with Sivir, Nautilus, Jarvan, Engage, really just good around the edges. But then you get Xerath, which he's a siege mage. He can throw like damage in from far away off the Engage of Jarvan or Nautilus, kind of stay in this safe position. And then you have Fiora, so I guess they're looking to 4-1 with this Fiora on the side of the map. But like I said, I just don't see how Xerath fits into this composition if that's the case. But certainly they're going to look to utilize it. I honestly, to me, Dawn Shocks is even more scattered all over the place. You have both Divers and Sylas and Echo, and then you've got Jhin with the Yuumi to run around all over the place so they can like run forward. And then you have Trundle, which is like he can ult Nautilus or Jarvan, I guess. But like other than that, what are you doing with this Trundle pick? Like, I'm not really sure exactly what the plan is here.
I'm going to assume that the Trundle is to try to dissuade any kind of engagements. Immediately you utilize that ultimate, and Nautilus and Jarvan become pincushions at that point. So maybe that's their kind of kind of incentive to do that. But coming into this, where are you seeing some strength early on? Because right now we're seeing Dawn Shock, while they do have that Trundle and that Jhin and Yuumi and the such, they have a lot of ways that they can try to dive into this backline for Lotus. Sivir and Xerath to really be kind of have to be on their toes for this game.
Absolutely. I think there's some strength on Dawn Shock's side. Again, I'm curious to see whether we want Sylas. I think Sylas makes more sense as a top laner, but if they put it into the Xerath, I do think it's something that can abuse the Xerath. That E-Shield protects against at least a Q, sometimes even a W's worth of damage from the Xerath. Then you just immediately trade back with Conqueror, and then you can bring in Trundle, burn Flash, things like that. That's so easy to fight against Xerath if you're Sylas early. It's just, I don't think the Echo is the response to the top lane. I don't know if he actually is able to take advantage of the matchup against Fiora early, so you're kind of terrified. Yeah, I think they pigeonholed themselves into this kind of strange draft by taking Echo.
All right, so coming in, depending, we do want to see where this jungle pickup is going to end up going. It might even just be that Trundle jungle, like you were saying, Sylas being more preferable into one of these lanes. But where do you see some of Lotus's, like, where do they want to try to excel in this game? Is it after that 15-minute mark? Is it, in that, kind of crazy 20 to 25-minute mark? Because a lot of these games have been going not very long, but they do really tend to spike on one or two items.
Yeah, I think the best thing about the side of Lotus is that their early game skirmishing is amazing. You talk about Jarvan is pretty well suited to fight early, but if he goes and skirmishes with Fiora in the river, Xerath can help out from super far away. That recent buff that gives him longer ult range at level 6 and at level 12 or level 11 when you would normally have lower ultimate range. Really good for skirmishes. And then Jarvan, Fiora both benefit from the attack speed, can absolutely take fights against Trundle, Sylas. Neither one of them, like the Jarvan ultimate's pretty good. But then also bot side of the map, Sivir, Nautilus, Jarvan has so much engage into Jhin, Yuumi. It's almost impossible if Jhin doesn't have Flash to escape that situation. So to me, all Xerath has to do is consistently push in Echo, and then it's all about getting Jarvan into positions where he can invade, he can have vision control, things like that. That should open up the map for the side of, my apologies, for the side of Lotus.
Yeah. Coming into this, we've already seen that both sides of this draft. It is a little bit of a toss-up here, but coming in, I mean, Nautilus and Sivir feel like a lot of this team for Dawn Shock are kind of relying on being able to get past those first couple of kind of spots in the laning phases. You have really great dive, and if Sivir and Nautilus are just able to constantly keep Dawn Shock pushed in, like you were saying, Jarvan just gets free reign over the jungle. He can kind of move around as he pleases, and we might even see some early dives coming in here. I do want to see how Robbie Bob is able to play out, because he does have this TP in this lane, and Now that we are finally into the game, or at least past this draft phase, like you're saying, it is going to be the Sylas with solo lane, and it is going to be Echo for that mid lane matchup. How do you kind of reconcile this Sylas versus Fiora matchup?
Yeah, so I think it's relatively easy for Fiora to take early, especially after first item. If she wants to like opt for the Tiamat into Ravenous Hydra pretty fast rush into the Sylas, then she has the sustain to match with the Sylas alongside having the repose to prevent him from stunning her. And then her ultimate is much harder for Sylas to use than it is for Fiora to use. His dashes aren't on a low cooldown like hers are. So while it is a decent dueling tool for him to use, it's much better suited for Fiora's kit. So to me, I think it's a Fiora maybe, or at very minimum, an even matchup to start the game, but Fiora very quickly takes that matchup if Sylas falls behind or even just stays even in terms of the farm game. So you have to be very careful if you're on the side of Dawn Shock, because it could very quickly be a Fiora on top of your inhibitor tower if you're not careful.
Yeah, like you're saying, we have to watch to see what happens. Anything can really happen. All of a sudden, lanes that shouldn't be winning are going to, and it can get very, very crazy, especially with the team compositions that we've already seen draft going a little bit out of the window. But for this first, before we get into game, we have to talk about HyperX. If you're looking for great equipment to take your game to the next level, look no further than HyperX. HyperX is one of the premier names in the industry, providing gamers with all the right tools and equipment needed to bring the best to the table. They have everything from keyboards and mice to headsets, which, by the way, I've got pretty nice, and audio equipment, which we at Upsurge are even using today, like myself. So don't wait, and make sure you can get your HyperX gear over at hyperxgaming.com. HyperX, because we're all gamers. And with that, we are going to try to go through this spectator delay. And when we're back, we'll be here with the first game between Dawn Shock and Lotus Bloom for the qualifiers quarterfinals. Don't go anywhere.
That was a weird draft.
Literally, I'm sitting here. I'm like, I'm so glad I get to do play-by-play because I don't even have to be. I literally. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for our first game between Dawn Shock and Lotus Bloom. Coming into this game, we were already talking about a pretty interesting draft, but now we're gonna have to watch to see where it kind of shakes up. This is the first game of a best of three for both of these teams. All the teams have been playing best of one so far. So now it comes to being able to play those best of threes for quarters and for semis, and then finally potentially get into that best of five for the finals here. And already a level 5 stack here coming out, or sorry, a 5-man stack.
Yeah, I think they actually saw Nautilus get pushed out of the brush on the top side with the Echo.
Ooh, getting close, not able to land the hook there. There's a lot of poke being thrown across. Specifically, the most important part is a lot of it has landed onto Trundle here, and an early control ward being taken away. A lot of damage being done already to the Trundle, could spell a little bit dangerous. However, this is a Trundle that has decided to go for that press the attack instead of Conquer. Is there any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it just points to the fact that he knows his early game impact is not going to be super heavy. Like his best lane to gank is against the Xerath, but other than that, he's basically just late game insurance against this Jarvan and against this Nautilus in terms of those divers that come in, as you were saying. That's where his true value is. He's not going to find a ton of perfect ganks against a lot of these people. The Fiora specifically, super hard to gank. Bot lane, you know, Sivir, Nautilus are going to be pushed in constantly. So I think he knows he needs to be late game Trundle and not dueling Trundle, because he's not going to have tons of priority. Opts for the press the attack so that he can help out some of the damage that'll come through some of these guys.
Interesting enough, we don't see a lot of early wards being placed, only in that tri-bush, so they will have knowledge that, hey, Purion is going to be starting onto this bot side. And what is this where do you see this Trundle trying to path early on here? Because already Soul Mario is going to start feeling a little bit of that burn. Robbie Bob taking an advantage. A lot so far from Dawn has been taken early on in terms of top.
I think the best thing if you're Pyroan is on this Trundle just trying to track Jarvan, because Jarvan, as I said, if he's dueling around the map, if he's capable of finding things ahead of time, that's when he's going to be the most proactive. He's going to be able to do quite a bit of damage. So if Trundle's able to kind of keep him away, keep him at bay, that kind of thing, prevent him from getting out of his own jungle, finding these really unique gank paths for these lanes, I think that's the best kind of value you're going to find for this Trundle pick early. So to me, I want him matching, or I want him putting wards deeper into the jungle against this Jarvan, kind of figure out, give his laners that information they need.
Yeah, and already we see that Trundle is going to be topside. That ward should begin to expire into that top river. So taking a look, unrequited potentially in a position, but he is a little bit early here for that scuttle. So he is just going to come down, waste a little bit of time. He's going to go for that Gromp here. And here, Pyroan is going to come out on time. Something to note, Spider Queen has decided to go for that Doran's Ring in hand. There are a couple pings going out topside for Trundle. But what do you, I mean, typically we've seen that, you know, the Doran's Ring start. We've also seen Boots start. Do you think that is really going to influence his lane all that much?
Yeah. Okay, he's waiting for a little bit of
trade here in mid lane. He has no mana.
Yeah, he has no cooldown for Xerath, unfortunately. Otherwise, that could have easily been a kill. But as you were talking about, yeah, the Jhin taking the Doran's Ring is mostly for mana sustain. It's so that he's not going to get constantly pushed in by Sivir. It's very difficult for a lot of champions to actually clear against Sivir, but Jhin can do it so long as he has the mana to keep his Q up, and then he has autos and E's to manage throughout the rest of the process. But if he takes something like Doran's Ring, or if he takes like Boots, as you said, it's a lot more difficult for him to keep his wave pushed out, and against a Jarvan and a Nautilus, super tanky, engaged champions early, you don't want that. So he's trying to keep it away from his tower, at least far enough away to not get ganked constantly.
Yeah, you don't want to get stuck down there with a stacked minion wave and a bunch of Titan's Wrath and Jarvan's Shield. I completely understand that. Now, both TPs being utilized by the mid laners here. Shoot being on the bad end of that trade. Something to note here was that Trundle also took it back here. Purion is down here. Deadly Flourish is able to land. Trundle Pillar is being utilized right now. Flash immediately coming out from Sandpaper. Yeah, just to blow that away from Nautilus.
Yeah, decent plays around the map right there. A big one important was Echo. He dove in onto Xerath, but I think he misplaced the auto attack. So he ended up not even getting the auto attack trade onto Xerath, and he got a full combo pulling into him. So he was in a pretty rough place. Then bot lane, they're just pushing this in. I think they want to reset for the Jhin to make sure that he has the ability to buy, maybe for the Yuumi as well, so she gets that advanced support item. And the best way to do that, obviously, is to bring the Trundle down. They also got the flash from Nautilus, so that's pretty free for them as well. So they'll take what they can get down in that bot lane.
Yeah, interesting enough. They only have about 700, 800 gold on either of them, so probably looking for just a couple boots, if not, the long swords. But something to note here was that Unrequited was able to go into that jungle after that first reset for Trundle and Shupian, and immediately goes for those Raptors. So Heroin, while he is able to get that gank off, there is already starting to be a little bit of a creep discrepancy. And now we see Eclipse getting back into lane with that TP. And there's not even a Soul Mario taking a lot of damage in that trade, and one of the best things that happened to Silas is that Absconda duck being changed to only having a magic damage shield, which is why, like we were saying in the pick ban, we thought it was very interesting that Silas was going to be the one to kind of go up into this Xerath, or into the floor matchup, sorry.
Yeah, and like I said, they played their hand just too quickly picking that Echo, because then they knew Silas couldn't really go to the mid lane or go anywhere but top lane if you have the Echo. Echo's just going to be bullied by most of the top laners, and unless they were willing to take a bad jungler, or they were willing to kind of put Echo in the jungle just to get something, they knew Silas was going there. So they had the option to pick this Fiora. Clearly, it's working out already. Eclipse doing a good job shoving in waves constantly, trading into Soul Mario. Like I said, lane's not going to get any easier either.
Robbie Bob getting a bit traded. Nice use of the passive there from Shupian just to try and trade some damage back onto them. Shupian is starting to get to that area where that dimension, that passive, as well as the Time Winder slow becomes very deadly to deal with. And already we've seen coming out from Requited and from Lotus Blooms,
the mid lane.
They're actually trying to start this, and also Pirwin sitting in Dragon Pit. Robbie Bob lands the E, nice stun, right into the knockup, and Shupian's going to have to use the parallel convergence. Ultimate coming out. Nice, getting the first blood here for Lotus Bloom. Dragon looks to be almost done if I take a look at this. 1,000 health on this, so Infernal Drake is going to go over early, but we already see Lotus Bloom is making the rotation over. They don't have vision of this. Pirwin does have flashing, might have to go over this. Sandpaper's across the wall. Dredgeline lands, W as well. There we go. Dog's able to pick up the first kill. Spider Queen has to use the Ghost. There is a flash here for the Jin top. There is no flag and drag landing, but that's a lot of damage onto Spider Queen.
Yeah, really unfortunate situation there. So the combination of the Jin and the Yuumi couldn't actually challenge Sivir Nautilus when they walk up the river. So either they get pinched by the Jarvan or Pyroan gets pinched by the Jarvan. And that's exactly what you saw right there, where they bailed on the play to make sure that they could get out. They didn't burn much health, but as you saw, you're going to get your jungler punished when that happens. At minimum, they do get that Infernal Drake, very important. But thankfully, that's all they got in that situation. Got traded on. Pretty good play from both teams.
Yeah, they were able to get the dragon. They did have to spend a lot of resources, like you were saying. 2 kills as well as the ghost from the Jin. Thankfully, like we were talking about, as long as it's not the flash, we're not super upset, right? So
yeah, it's not a terrible trade. Also, like a late game, Infernal Drake is going to do wonders for this team. Most of them will have some AP or AD.
Using the ultimate, grand challenge coming out, trying to get it across back onto Eclipse. Great trade using the Kingslayer there. That health trade is still really, really impactful for that. Nice use between the mid laners, just trying to trade a little bit. I'm waiting for when Shupian just goes all in with a parallel convergence into phase dive and just blows up Robbie Bob. But so far, I mean, we're seeing we're starting to see a little bit of a difference between the two teams right now. Unrequited going for a little bit more of that farm, as we see Shupian immediately goes into has phase dive. He's going to go under the turret potentially. Parallel convergence not going to win there. Top lane getting sure.
Yeah, again, this is really good by both junglers. They're finding ways to reset these lanes so they can find proper back timings. Otherwise, again, the best way for things like Echo, like Silas to get kills in the laning phase is to have good back timings where they catch their opponent with fewer items or less. They might have more gold, but they don't have the items to kind of match, and that's what they're finding here. Now, Tiamat finished for this Fiora is going to make it so difficult for Soul Mario to get anything accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, Silas is already having a little bit of trouble trying to try to stop some of the shoving waves, but now we see that the CS difference is really not there. It's actually bot side, as we already see 30 CS in favor of Spider Queen. And take a look at where this entirety of Lotus Bloom is. They've got a lot of vision towards his bot side, a lot of it committed to making sure that they have priority. And just look at how far up Sivir can be. She's just behind the turret, basically, kind of trying to fight there. And see that Pyro is starting to make his rotation down there. Looking for potential engage on a Sandpaper. Has to blow the flash right off of cooldown. Getting punished for being a little bit too aggressive, not really tracking where Pirwin is now. They're going to see him on this back now, so hopefully we see Unrequited is going to be able to try to make a little bit more moves as he is going to getting engaged upon and just really evaporated from the map. Soul Mario again with the grand challenge onto him. Fiora trying to get this last one. Conquer being procced. Gets the grand challenge to be procced, but Soul Mario is just going to be safely sitting under his turret.
Absolutely. It was a very strange situation there from Spider Queen and T26. They were kind of like trying to freeze the wave in the middle, but they didn't respect that Nautilus and Sivir could stay there. There wasn't a huge health discrepancy or even a mana discrepancy really between the two, so I'm surprised they were willing to just do that with basically no repercussions whatsoever, or at least no expected repercussions from them, and they just get punished. I mean, that was just Nautilus easily just taking a hook. Like that's the easiest kill you can get all game.
I mean, the dredge line landed, and Yuumi went missing. So
yeah, that was it. Like,
yeah,
what do you do if you're Yuumi in that situation? Like I said, the only like answer to that is don't do what you did. But like, I don't know why she did that in the first place. So
Soul Mario trying to get a trade, is not able to land it. Blade work coming out. There's a bunch of lunges. He's waiting for that minion, but Eclipse gonna be tanking a little bit. Nice blade work. Uses the lunge, the flash as well, and Eclipse is able to just barely escape from turret.
Yeah. That could have actually gone really badly for Eclipse. So I think he tried to stop tanking aggro, and he kept tanking aggro, and then he's like, I'll go for it anyway. Worked out in this situation. Could have gone badly, but certainly really good solo kill there for Eclipse, especially on this Fiora. That's just going to springboard him even further ahead in the play.
Yeah, Sandpaper moving over, Rift Herald going to the side of Lotus Bloom. Unrequited is going to have that. And where do you expect this Rift Herald to go? Obviously, if there is a huge fight in one of these lanes, more than likely going to get dropped as a consequence of it. But where do you see this kind of pressure coming in? Because right now they've already got bot lane pushing. Top lane is looking relatively good for Lotus Bloom, and Robbie Bob has had a pretty decent time just trying to handle this Echo.
Yeah, what I'd like to see is them rotate down towards the bottom side of the map, not necessarily use Rift Herald there, but use it as a response to a kind of the reaffirmation of pressure. So if you bring 3-4 people down to the bottom side of the map, but Jarvan stays up towards the top side of the map, you can push 2 lanes at once. And yeah, you might not get bot tower. It's already down 3 turret plates. You can get a lot more gold, out of the top plate or the mid plate, and then you can easily just push that at the same time.
Use of the final chapter right on the Sandpaper. No flash available for him. He is going to be taken down. Ultimate being utilized. Heroine could be going down, but the Arcano Pulse. Last rights coming out from the Xerath. Robbie Bob coming in with a sniper. He's going to be able to take out Trundle. 1-for-1 trade right there. But Lotus Bloom just going even 5-1, 13 or 12 and a half minutes in. Dragon being started. It is going to be a Cloud Drake here.
Yeah. So you saw right there kind of what the buff to Xerath did. He was standing basically in the middle of the river, and he was still able to have an impact in that fight. It was going decently to start with, at least, for the... Oh, okay. My bad. The dragon just went off. But yeah, it went well. Spider Queen got that initial kill onto Nautilus, but it actually kind of looked like Dog was about to like 3v1 with the damage he was putting out, and then Nautilus scared them away after killing off that the Trundle. But yeah, again, good plays, good responses here from both teams. Just trying to find what they can at the moment.
Yeah, and I love this coming out from Sandpaper. They already recognize that Dog is able to just hold the lane, so he's looking for roams. You want to see them be able to apply more vision, which is what we were trying to kind of point as a possible win for them, is that they want the Jarvan to try and get some kind of vision priority and look for a dive. Now, top lane could be the next one. They have a pretty nice wave stack up from Soul Mario. Needs to be able to clear this, and 3 people are already heading towards top side. You already have Eclipse, obviously, here proxying behind. Nautilus should get spotted on this ward behind the brush, and Jarvan's coming in with the wave, potentially utilizing it. Here we go, Dread Knight is gonna land, gets the knock-up, nice use of the riposte, and just turret juggling. Great job from the side of Lotus. They're able to get the kill. I don't think they're gonna actually end up utilizing Rift Herald here. They should be able to take a lot of this turret, if not the entire thing.
Yeah, that was just basically a picture-perfect dive right there. You saw Nautilus hit the great hook, and then the ultimate coming out. And the only CC that would have possibly saved the Sylas in that situation got riposted by that Fiora, and then stunned him further under the tower. And the best part is, Nautilus tanked the only 2 tower shots that came out. So, like, everything that could have gone well in that situation went well. Now they can't even push bot tower because Sivir just has too much wave clear. You're seeing that right there. That's just perfect across the map, as long as the dive doesn't come through from Trundle.
Yeah, and for both sides, it's just felt very, very hard for Dawn to try and siege for a turret here, because we even saw it in mid lane after that fight, as we see Shupian and Pirowin try to dive for this mid turret, and Xerath just presses 2 buttons and the wave's gone, and potentially an engage on a Shupian. Gonna try and use the phase dive to get away. Timelinder as well. Eclipse is available. Silas does have the TP, but Sandpaper is waiting across the wall. Right of the Arcane gonna come out. flash as well from Shupian, I think is really interesting, just trying to dodge away from Unrequited. This is going to give mid priority over to the side of Lotus. It looks like they're also going to summon the Rift Herald here.
Yeah, going to be able to siege up on this mid tower. It's super difficult, as you said. Sieging either direction, either sieging on a tower or preventing a siege, is difficult for things like this Echo, like this Trundle, even like this Sylas. They're all low range. They don't have tons of ability to poke or anything. The only thing you can hope for is an engage from the Echo or a nice chain from the Sylas. But if you don't want to dive into 4 or 5 people, you don't have many other choices.
All right, on the hunt, use
on the hook.
Sandpaper, not able to land it. Like you're saying, that's a real feels bad. Robbie Bomb getting immediately engaged upon, could go down here. Nice flash coming out. Parallel conversion having to be used. Finally, the dredge lands. Trying to go for a turret, unrequited. Please don't go down on this one. He doesn't have flag and direct. He does have flash. TP's coming in.
Came out. Yeah, that ult's gonna keep draining him. He has no armor either.
Go in, trying to survive, but it's not gonna be enough. Grand challenge is there. Eclipse finding another kill. And he's 3-0 already, and Dawn is looking very, very kind of kill-starved right now. They're trying to just go for things, but it's getting harder and harder.
Yeah, they're losing more and more gold, which is making it more difficult for this comp to work. You have things like Trundle. He is more of that late-game insurance. So you should be things like Echo and Sylas trying to find plays or picks onto some of these champions. But it's just difficult. Again, how do you really pick off a Xerath if you don't have perfect vision control in the enemy's junk? Like, he's just going to be so far back. Sivir Nautilus, almost impossible to engage on. We found that 1 kill. But other than that, like, it's so difficult to fight any of these members, and it's just going to get worse. Again, Fiora becomes just an absolute menace in the later stage, especially if she goes for this Trinity Force. Who's going to stop her in the side lane? I don't think both the solo laners could stop her in the side lane, honestly.
Yeah, I think the real question we have to ask is not necessarily how are they going to be able to try and find and engage, is how are they going to survive something? Because we're already seeing Robbie Bob with those Arcano pulses, with that W. He is taking massive chunks out of the really the tankiest member on the team that we're expecting in Pirowin. So we need to be able to see this team. They need to be able to slow down this game. What are some of the moves that they could take here for Dawn if they want to try and slow this game down and try to get back into this?
Like I said, I think that we need to see the Sylas. Like, he's building right now armor because he has that Seeker's Arm Guard. He's going for the locket, or my apologies, not the locket, but he's trying to prevent the damage from Fiora to come through. I don't think that's the right play. I think you honestly have to put him in the lane with the Xerath because that magic shield just makes it all the more effective. He could have built a little bit more standard with the loot and he's just tried to wave clear against the Xerath. That's where he's at now. He's actually in the bot lane against it. That's one of the ways you could at least stop side lane push or prevent Xerath at least from pushing you in constantly in a side lane before roaming back. The other thing, obviously, is somebody needs to respond to Fiora. Echo's probably your best bet because he can disengage from a Fiora for the most part.
On the hunt, Looks like they're just going to go fishing right here. Unrequited, looking for something. Does use the flag and drag, but he's going to go low. Cataclysm used as well. Final chapter here onto Dog. There's a lot of Blinking Health bars here, and now Shupian coming from across the table. Final curtain also being used. Everyone trying to find something. Flashes everywhere.
Eclipse can get to the back line, though. This is bad.
The Eclipse here going a little bit far. Grand Challenge is not going to proc on this one. So Mario is going to go down. Robbie Bob getting a little bit too close for comfort. Shupian as well, having to use a parallel convergence. Sandpaper, no flash yet again. Left for dead. Now this dragon is going to go over, and that's 3 kills and a lot of bounties going to the help on
Sivir. They can contest. I don't think there's a dragon. I think they just need to walk away from this. On the side of Dawn.
Well, wait a minute. Dog's doing a lot of damage as well. Shupian's here with the Yuumi. Yuumi is completely stranded, but now we see Spider Queen is activated and is looking for the hunt. Uses the double kill. Blade work as well as the riposte. Eclipse is able to find it. Nice use. Triple quadra kill here.
Oh my goodness.
The amount of healing from this champion going from 400 to 700 bounty. You're going to have to find a way to kill the Grand Duelist. As this dragon looks like it's going to go over to the side of Lotus. And what an intense, crazy bout of a minute and a half of fighting.
Yeah, there's no resistances. There's barely any armor on anybody but Sylas, and then obviously the Trundle has the Ninja Tabi. But this is the power of this Fiora. The Ravenous Hydra and the Conqueror give her so much healing, especially when she hits those vitals, and she just tears through each person individually, one by one. That's the problem with the Yuumi, is that she's not actually there casting abilities, auto-attacking constantly to help that fight go positively. So it's just pure 1v1 the entire time. You saw she did it to Trundle, then she did it to Jhin, and she was able to pick off the Yuumi one by one by one. It was perfectly set up for Eclipse. The fight actually went their way too. It was a really good job by Dawn to start that off. It's just they kind of started faltering once Eclipse started running into their backline.
Yeah, that was a pretty great fight. We were starting to really look like maybe, hey, they do have a way to get back into this game. Spider Queen with the Jhin. Really unlucky that you know, it was looking so close between him and Eclipse, almost being able to get that kill and try to finalize some kind of a lead here. But we're still stuck at about 7,000 to 8,000 gold now in favor of Lotus Bloom, and this does at least inspire some hope, right? It inspires some hope that yes, Dawn still can execute, and there are still ways for them, and it isn't necessarily there's too much gold or there's too many items. Eclipse is still tanking a lot of that turret. That lunge did not get him out of range, sadly enough, but he is sitting 7-0-1. He's got his Trinity Force as well as that Ravenous, and he's got that 2-level lead. This man is sitting at level 14 already.
Yeah, I think this is what we were talking about before. A 5-person team comp, it works really well when you're fighting against the Fiora composition, because Fiora has to pop off if she wants to contribute in fights like that. That or she just trades 1-for-1 in the backline with somebody that's really important, like the Jhin or something. But as you saw in this last fight, it's very difficult for that to happen. So in pure 5v5, you saw what the 4-person man did. They killed 3 of those people before the fight had even started. It was just they got cleaned up by Fiora. That's the kind of presence you can have on this composition, especially once Jhin and Echo start to get more items. They can take 5v5s with this Trundle. That's what it's built for, but they have to prevent Fiora from just winning the game on her own before that happens.
Do you think any of them are going to have to build some of that, you know, the grievous wounds, just try and prevent some of that healing, or is it you would rather see them try to start prioritizing much more larger damage items?
I think it's difficult to not build Grievous Wounds into her, especially with things like Sivir is going to probably build at least a little bit of healing as well. So there's not tons of it outside of that, though, so it's not super effective in terms of pure team fighting. It's just whoever's in the lane with her, like this Silas is right here, it's difficult for him to live in a lane where she can just sustain herself through all of his damage. And he can build armor as well. That'll also help, as that Seeker's Arm Guard will do. But I just don't know if it's enough at the moment. He's going to need a lot of armor, and he needs that kind of the Grievous Wounds in order to just survive the laning phase. So, like, what do you build? You don't have enough gold on the Silas to actually build that. I think that's where he's struggling right now. You need 2-3 items just to live against the Fiora in the side lane right now.
And now we're starting to see just kind of that Baron Tango. Lotus Bloom saying, hey, you want to come fight us? Come and get it. It looks like you can see Eclipse tanking turret. This is one of the things that we were talking about earlier on, is he tanks a lot of that turret there. And now the curtain call comes out. Baron taken so fast from the side of Lotus Bloom. It is just going to be a free one. Ooh, Pierman does have to use the flash. It is almost taken off this map. The Troll King almost getting kind of a regicide there. But Soul Mario has to play so far back now in this lane.
That he does, yeah. These minions are almost impossible for him to kill. Even with the Proto, like the Proto Belt's the only thing that can help him clear a wave, and if it's not available like it is now, he just has to give it up. Like, he can't give towers anymore. You can put Fiora in either of these side lanes at any point, and the other 4 just have to not die, and you will basically break the entire base open, or at least get right to the inhibitor towers. This is a great place to be. The Eclipse is making this look very easy on the Fiora, but this split push is so easy to operate when you have this 4-man squad. Again, the 4-1's what we predicted when we started. We're seeing it come through. We have to try to find 5-person fights for Dawn to come back in the game. The question is, like, has it already passed? Has their window passed already? I just don't know at this point.
Yeah, we're kind of breaking over that 9,000 gold mark here in favor of Lotus Bloom. So 4 turrets to 0. So there is still some hope. There are still a lot of turrets available for them. They haven't really been able to get too much of a siege on. It is only 23 minutes into the game, so this is the Sivir has started to already get really hyper scaled. You know, we see a 50 CS difference in terms of gold. However, she's only up about 1,100, so not too much of a difference there.
Yeah.
Where do you see the next 5 minutes here for Lotus?
The next 5 minutes here for Lotus, again, I think all that it is for them is just buying time for Fiora to take some of these side lane towers. If she gets both of the side lanes pushed into the inhibitor turret, that's fine. They can wait for next Baron, because again, as you said, Sivir just gets stronger as the game goes on. Xerath just continues to pick up items, gets a lot stronger himself, and then you just have tankiness being built on Nautilus, on Jarvan for your 4-man squad. Fiora's already at the point where she's unbeatable, so...
Piero and just trying to fight here. Soul Mario is here. Unrequited does have Flag and Direct, so he's going to be able to escape Sandpaper as well. And look at this. They're just getting pulled across the map. It feels a little bit like they're desperate for something. Piero just gets absolutely annihilated there from the Arcano Pulse.
It's very difficult. Yeah, and Fiora's still here, pushing towers across the map. She has Baron. You can't just let her push. Like, this is what I'm talking about. You can't let her win the game before you're able to find some of these fights that you need. They tried to look for Dragon. Now they're trying to chase down the Fiora because they're giving away
5-man dog pile.
And bot lane, like, they're giving away everything just to chase down Fiora. I don't even know if they get... Oh, I guess that's what...
Yeah. I would be very surprised if Eclipse is able to escape this. That is going to be the kill going over to the Spider Queen, but they are losing a lot of their base, like you had noted. The shutdown is going over to Spider Queen, so 1,000 gold there for him, Curtain Call. That does mean that they have the ultimate potentially being used for them. Shupian trying to look to be out of vision. Soul Mario and the team here from Dawn just trying to hold on to their base as they're just being pulled every which way by Lotus Bloom. Right of the Arcane comes out, just trying to do some damage. That is a huge chunk, even with Yumi constantly healing. And the Arcane Comet is going to be the one to finally, sniper versus sniper. You're going to be the one going down on this one, Jim.
How do you even how do you deal with that damage? Like, the only way you can even prevent that damage is dodging skill shots, but it's so hard. Robbie Bob just nails everything in that. Like I said, the Comet's what killed him, but he just takes shot after shot. Zereth's not even on a screen. How do you deal with that? Like, you can't even see him to predict where he's going to shoot the skill shot.
Nice use of the Cataclysm there. Everyone's going to get very, very low, and it looks like the Boomerang Blade is going to be the one to take him down. Somar has to flash out Shupian, getting rooted, and almost tries to get out, utilizing the parallel convergence, but he's taken down. Robbie Bob taking complete control, showing him the right of the Arcane is in mid lane. Final chapter is going to whiff. This book is looking like it's about to get closed by Lotus Bloom. Looking to try to get a dive under the Nexus turret, but Nexus is going to be going down slowly enough. Eclipse fighting right under those turrets. 26:45 is going to be the minute at which Lotus Bloom is going to take game one of this quarterfinals.
Yeah, absolutely. Games of drafts, both of them were a little bit weirder than we would have expected, but you had pretty clear conditions from the side of Lotus. They were pretty straightforward. Again, it was a 4-1 composition. Xerath wasn't perfect in it, but obviously if you have Sivir, Nautilus, Xerath, you're going to do some damage. You're going to have plenty of CC in front line. And then the Fiora just spiraled out of control. That one good fight for the Fiora just put her so far ahead, there's nothing you can do. And like I said, Eclipse basically won that game by taking multiple tier 2 towers and then opening up for the Sivir to take the inhibitor. Like, after that point, I think the game was basically done. No fight really from the side of Dawn in that case.
So I want to quickly pick your brain right before we go to the next game. What are your thoughts if maybe Eclipse had not popped off as hard? Do you think that this is still a potential win here from Dawn, even though the team composition was not necessarily to our liking, or it's something we were expecting too much?
Like I said, even if Eclipse had not won that 4v1 and then prevented the Dragon from going over, I don't think there was ever a point where Soul Mario was able to contest him in a side lane, which was the issue. You still had to compete with a fed Xerath, a fed Sivir. Both of those still existed. Even on an island without Fiora, that 4-man squad was still almost impossible to fight. Like, there's plenty that you have to clean up if you're on the side of Dawn, just in terms of draft alone, let alone some of the performances that were had by these players. First things first, make it so that you have better, easier ways to win the game.
All right, and with that, that is going to be Lotus Bloom taking a pretty convincing win in game one here of our quarterfinals. Don't tune anyway. We are going to get right back into the action with game two coming up shortly. And welcome back, everybody. We are back with Scouting Grounds Open Qualifier hosted by Upsurge. Game 2 for this quarterfinals. Lotus Bloom taking a really convincing game 1. And already we're seeing pretty similar bans yet again. Kled, Tristana, Riven. Are we kind of going to see Kha'Zix and Akali again here from Don Shock? Or maybe something different here? Maybe trying to feel out from that first game.
I'd see a little bit of difference, especially because I think there was a substitute in this game. So a new jungler has stepped in. If I recall, Eric Zhang has stepped in for the side of Dawn. So hopefully we'll see at least a little bit of different bans. Maybe that's just the case.
Pirowin out, and we're going to see Eric Z Yang, like you were saying. This guy is a pretty well-known Kayn player, and hopefully we might not see the Kayn in this game, but still, this guy is really highly rated and definitely known in the community for his Kayn gameplay. But already seeing the Yorick this time instead of Sejuani from Lotus.
So Sejuani being let through might be just them wanting to prioritize it, and Don Shock just not willing to play their game. Ooh. Okay, yeah. So Sejuani's still on the board if they want to take it on the side of Don Lock because Jace insta-locked.
Instant lock here for Lotus. So from Dawn, like we were saying from the last game, Yuumi is available, and we thought it was pretty weird that they had first two Dawn. They left Yuumi up, and they weren't able to then kind of pair it with the Sivir there. So for Dawn, what are you expecting from this? Since we've already seen them pick some comfort.
Okay. That makes at least a fair amount of sense. So last game, they were lacking quite a bit of just hard engage, or at least any engage for the most part. You had things like a dive, but you had nothing that could really start a fight. Jarvan is an immediate fight starter. Sivir would also still make sense here. I think that's two that combo together very well, and also team fights very, very spectacularly. So to me, I think Sivir's still a smart choice here from Dawn. I'm just curious whether they're willing to replicate the old draft from the opposite side, of course.
Yeah, maybe they go for one of those solo lane picks here. Perhaps we see it again. And Pyke here for Don Shock, specifically just to try and get T26. This guy is an absolute monster on this champion, so glad to see that. And for Lotus, picking up an Elise, we start to see her a lot more, specifically from the Mr. Mike Young, but Lotus trying to pick up a lot more of these power picks that are very, very great early game and tend to kind of spike off a little bit towards that later. So what is this draft so far telling you from Lotus?
Just pure aggression across the board. Jace did get some changes that made him a little bit more of a later game champion, but he's still something that can be flexed around. Elise, super powerful into the likes of Jarvan, also ganks very, very hard with the damage and can reach that tower aggro. And then Nautilus, as you saw last game, Lotus played it super, super well. So clearly, that's a champion they feel comfortable on. Good into Pyke, potentially. Maybe the only other support that's like contestable with Pyke at the moment. So like I said, Lotus just picking power picks at the moment. I think the response to the Jarvan Pyke isn't anything different from Dawn. This is kind of what I expected game 1 to look like.
Yeah, and I think that this is a big switch up coming up from the last game where we saw that bot lane was picked up pretty easily, and we again saw huge solo lane focus. And now this time around, we don't see a bot lane, at least not one, coming out of the gate. So how badly does this bot lane pool get pinched, if at all?
Like I said, I don't know any real bot lane champions other than Sivir that are like pure bannable because they're just absolutely like busted. Jhin is also something Spider Queen likes to play, but it certainly wasn't unbeatable last time. So I don't think anything other than Sivir is worth banning if you're on either side. Now they could pinch it further if they feel they're comfort bans, but yeah, I wouldn't pinch anything beyond Sivir.
Okay, so since we're not going to be pinching anything other than Sivir, then let's pivot here and say, what do we want to see? Because we've already seen Jace now here for solo lane. We've already seen that now Urgot more than likely going to be going topside. What do you want to see from both of these teams from mid lane? Because we saw that Shupian did kind of get bullied around in that early game, and while Robbie Bob on the Xerath didn't necessarily play an amazingly influential role, we still really felt his presence when we hit that mid-game 15-20 minutes.
Yeah, to me, Lotus is doing the right thing. Okay, I'm not sure why they did that, but my intention originally was, I think if they ban mid laners and then they flex Jace mid, they can get a huge counter pick for top lane, because I don't think Urgot's going anywhere from top at this moment.
All right, it's a fizz ban.
Oh, is it fizz ban?
Yeah, it is a fizz ban.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot more. Yeah, see, so that's what I was saying. Mid laners getting banned now. They can flex Jace into the mid lane now, and there's no real response because he's already a flex pickable. He's super strong champion. So now it's about getting a counter pick for your top laner here. Yeah.
Is there anything that we're uncomfortable with for a Jace to really start to go up against? Or maybe we even see the Jace try to go mid lane as Kaisa looking to be the next AD carry picked up here for Lotus?
Yeah, just see a little bit of AP damage mixed in here. Oh no, I'm not going to do that. Okay.
All right, what do you think about this matchup here? I mean, we've got a Lucian Nautilus versus Ezreal Pike. Ezreal Pike is not typically stuff that we tend to see too often as a combination.
Okay. What I would expect to see is so Lucian Nautilus, both very good early game champions, and they can also bully Pike so long as Pike doesn't have his escape. If he like fails or butchers like an early like engage onto them, it's pretty easy for them to punish the Pike. But it's all about getting this Ezreal kind of spike past 2 items very quickly. So Pike's ultimate's the best way to do that. Finally, we see the Corki come out here.
Yeah, and maybe, I mean, we saw the Azir hover, so maybe Lotus Bloom. We see the mid laners, they're just kind of like, hey, pick the Azir. We want to see like the most boring matchup mid lane. It's fine, guys. That's definitely what we want to do. He's like giving a hint over to Shupian, but it looks like Shupian is just going to end up taking the Zoe here, which is coming into Corki. Corki does have a little bit of a harder time trying to deal with poke, and feels like Zoe is one of those champions that sort of like LeBlanc doesn't tend to go away, just, you know, kind of gets put on the shelf for a little bit.
That's fair. Actually, so wouldn't it also shock me to see if Lotus were to actually still flex Corki in the top lane? I don't think it's a terrible matchup into Urgot. He's a ranged champion, same as Urgot. The difference is he's magic damage, kind of scales alongside him, but it's hard for Urgot to get a full-on engagement into a Corki or another ranged champion. And as you said, I think Corki has a worse matchup into Zoe than Jace does, especially since Jace early game with a little bit of like armor pen can tear into Zoe, can absolutely win that matchup just on the initial engage. So to me, I still think Corki could still be flexed towards that top lane if necessary, or if they're willing to do something like that.
Yeah, and coming into this game, we're going to have to see really what I want to see coming out from Don Shock is the influence of Eric Z. Yang. It is only one member. It is the jungler. Some things won't change too drastically, but we saw from Pirowin, while he was trying to, try to utilize that Trundle, it didn't feel like too much of an amazing matchup for him, all things considered. And I really want to see where this Jarvan is going to lead, because we see Lotus, like you were saying early on, those first 3, a lot of early aggression. We see that level 2 coming out from Lotus Bloom can be very deadly for a Pike and Ezreal to try to deal with. So how do you think that Don Chalk is going to be able to try to mitigate at least some of this early aggression?
Yeah, so things like Ezreal are super safe, and we just saw Jace actually get locked in, so I think it's difficult to actually get solo kills unless big mistakes are made by Dawn Shock. You have Ezreal, Pike can also sustain through quite a bit of damage, and like a lot of other people. So Ezreal, Pike should be safe, Zoe should be safe for the most part against this Corki matchup. So really, it's just about making sure Urgot doesn't get dove constantly by the Jace Elise. That's good early game combination. But he's a ranged champion, he should be able to live. And then it's just, where can Jarvan kind of find these ganks? I don't think there's tons of worry for Don Shock as long as they're not making massive mistakes or just getting outnumbered in every single fight. It's just about how do they take this composition that's so kind of balanced around poke and actually turn it into a comp that can start a fight with this Pike, with this Jarvan, with this Urgot that are massive frontliners for Ezreal and Zoe.
It felt like last game, Lotus, they were kind of just running at Don Shock, and Don were not really able to try to kind of answer back appropriately. But I think something that we have noted a little bit is this Pike and this Urgot. Perhaps with those auto executes that we see from both of their ultimates, this means that Don Shock have a little bit of a smaller kind of buffer between being able to finally execute on a kill and try to close out on some of those advantages. Because we saw around the Dragon, he was looking really good, and obviously Eclipse with that amazing outplay with the quadra kill there. Maybe that this is, some of these mechanics are what kind of break that down and get these team fights to be at least closer.
Absolutely. Like I said, also, it's Pike is able to give some pretty crazy gold over to a lot of the members of his team, specifically Ezreal, if he gets to these item spikes with this Kleptomancy, with this gold from the Pike. Could be huge. And then, as you said, some of these fights could have gone differently. You're looking at a Lucian, a Corki, an Elise, a Jace. These aren't super tanky champions. Most of them aren't building tons of armor, magic resist, or even like health for the most part. They're just building a lot of damage. So if Pike's able to get kind of up there, get rolling pretty easily, some of these fights can go very, very quickly in the favor of Dawn Shock, just because of this Pike pick that they have now.
All right, and now here for Lotus. Where do you see this team going for this game? We already see, obviously, the Corki here, and it is going to be going mid lane. We could see Robbie Bob just take a rotation to topside, so we will have to wait until we get into game. But where are you seeing this team kind of start to spike? Because it feels a little bit like they have kind of conflicting odds. Obviously, Lucian is really powerful very early on, and even that 1 to 2 items. But then we see Corki, who needs that Trinity Force, needs that rapid fire cannon. And Elise and Jace are just kind of off to the gates as soon as the game starts. So where do you see this team starting to kind of come alive?
Yeah, I see early game just being, it's all about unrequited on this Elise pick, getting everywhere on the map. Like I said, if you hit Urgot with a Cocoon, he probably dies to the combined damage of an Elise and a Jace. If you hit Zoe with a Cocoon at any point in the laning phase, Corki can shred through her pretty easily. There's no real escape for Zoe beside that flash. And again, Pyke and Ezreal, they're a little difficult to get ganks onto, but it's not impossible, especially with the Nautilus and an Elise throwing in CC. And there's damage kind of to boot. Again, Corki does tons of damage, even without that Trinity Force power spike. That's what you want. But he has plenty of damage to go up anyway. Lucian, Jace, Elise, all very early game damage champions that can take advantage if these cocoons are landed. So it's all about unrequited in this one.
Yeah, and with that, we are going to start to head over to the spectator delay and wait for game 2 to start. But before we get to that, we've got something here. We've got Midwest Esports. These guys have been around for so many years, starting off as just a small student group out of Wichita State University. And since then, Midwest Esports has grown to be a veteran organizer to tournaments, events throughout the United States. They host tournaments for games like League of Legends, Rocket League, as well as Overwatch. And for more information on that, check them out at midwestesports.com. And with that, we are going to head over to game 2. So don't go anywhere. Do not close that browser, and definitely don't mute. We are going to head into game 2 for this quarterfinals between Dawn, Shock, and Lotus Bloom. Welcome back, everybody. We are here for Game 2. Lotus Bloom with a lead 1-0 in this quarterfinals. Whoever wins this is going to be going up against Supernova on the other side of the bracket. So they have definitely tough competition, but they can still qualify for scouting ground. So this series obviously means a lot to both of these teams. It is only going to take one more from Lotus, but Dawn are looking to try and upset that, and already a 5-man stack yet again here on the side of Dawn, but from the side of Lotus. Trying to find too much here. Not another trade onto the jungle, but we're coming into this and we're taking a look. Shupian going and taking that Ignite plus the Electrocute. We were kind of taking a look at where this mid lane wanted to go. Where do you see really Robbie Bob trying to hold off against Shupian?
Again, it's about controlling, at least in terms of the early game. I don't think there's a point where the wave clear of Corki ever really beats the wave clear of Zoe, especially once she gets to like Ludens, then it's going to be really, really tough. So you just kind of have to expect that Zoe's going to be around the map. Just track her around as Corki. Don't get hit by a bubble without guns or flash up, at least. Just be careful about that. But really, that's most of the aggression. It's just the bubble. So save your Valkyrie. Make sure you don't get hit by any of those. And all you got to do is track her around the map. Make sure she doesn't get a massive roam off into one of these side lanes and completely turn a fight around. Yeah,
and this time around, we do see some early vision coming out from the teams. We see that first early ward is able to catch Unrequited. And it looks like he's just going to go for a solo here. They want to try and get that priority into that bot side, let Lucian and Sandpaper get that early push into the lane against Spider Queen and T26 and stop the Pyke from just getting those huge roams off across the map with that Ghost Water dive.
So interestingly, it looked like Eclipse was posturing as though they had just come from the top side of the jungle on the red side, kind of indicating that the red buff was stolen away from the Jarvan. I'm curious whether that was intentional, whether that's actually going to trick him and try to force him into a vertical jungling style, because I think Elise does win the duel against Jarvan, at least at level 2, especially with his Electrocute. So if he was able to pull off that bait, that'd be really cool, but I'm not sure it actually worked.
Yeah, and taking a look, it looks like both junglers are going to be just right now getting spotted on both sides, so they will see that the Elise was bot side, the ping coming out to say, hey, I'm going to blue buff, and now they will have perfect information of where Eric is. He looks like he's going to just try and cross the river. Both junglers looking to come over. Shupian, Robbie Bob's already on his way. Unrequited, no mana here, but he's going to try and get this. Eric has to blow the flash as well as the flag and drag, and gets really, really low after an Electrocute proc.
Yeah, that's rough. And again, both of them didn't really have vision of the other one until the last second. It just happens to be that Eric was caught out without the vision first. And so Unrequited on this Elise with the Electrocute, much easier to burst out the Jarvan like that. And burning that summoner is really big. That's not only a ganking tool for the Jarvan, but it's protection against future if there is an invade with this Elise, with this Corki, with the Jace Elise a little bit later.
Dredgeline lands, but T26 just going to utilize that dash, the Phantom Undertow, just to try and get out of that. Something to note there, we saw that Eric had to just go for that back right there, and that means Unrequited just gets a lot more time in the jungle. He's able to get this topside scuttle, and if he wants, he can go right back into his bot side. They do have the push of Soul Mario under his turret, and we could see an invade towards his topside. Still hasn't even taken this red buff at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be rough. We have to see whether Eric's actually going to want to get that bot side vision. Yeah, no, instead the bot lane from the side of Lotus actually just going to come up and take this away pretty easily. So good play by them. Just a little more gold onto their bot lane, and then obviously shut down Eric because he loses at least one of the scuttles.
Yeah, and now they know that he is going to be in this top side, right? Not only did they just catch him on this ward, they're also hitting the scuttle or the Scryer's Bloom bot side. So they know, hey, we have Eric just completely confined to his top side, which just means that now Unrequited is now going to be able to just roam throughout this map. He can go bot side, and if he wants, he can even sit there and wait for a potential counter gank. We saw the back get started there, but that bot side just being able to get that scuttle so nice for them. Just pushing in Spider Queen. This feels like a lot of things are happening. Nice use of the disdain under turret, but Eclipse is going to go down. First blood over here. Flag and drag does end up landing. Unrequited's going to have to flash just to try and escape. Dredgeline landing and bot side, but that first blood, it feels a little... Eclipse getting for that first game. The turrets just don't love him in this.
Yeah, that's rough for Eclipse to have to kind of tank through. Unfortunately, it's also just like Urgot getting a little bit of head, but getting a little armor will be difficult for the Jace to kind of handle. And again, this is kind of an early game team composition. You're designed around Elise, around the Jace, around the Lucian, and one of these champions kind of losing the laning phase, or at least starting off on this bad of a foot, it'll be rough to try to take advantage of when you're actually more powerful.
Yeah, Eclipse just getting down. He is about down 300, 400 gold at this point, even with that CSC that he does have for himself. And like you were saying, it is really rough, just barely outside or inside of turret range there. She's been going for a trade onto Robbie Bob. Look at how much damage he's able to get onto him with that corrupting potion. And it looks like Corky's just decided, hey, I'm just going to pick up the boots. I'm just going to pick up the cull. We're going to just leave it at that. Sandpaper just trying to stop the hook. Dog just going to have to cancel it, but unrequited as well as Eric are down here. Flash from Sandpaper trying to find you and engage. They know that the Jarvan doesn't have flash. There's not going to be enough. Nothing is going to land. It looks like kind of just a lot of posturing right now. Both of them kind of peacocking.
Yeah, really good counter gank. It was nice tracking by Unrequited right there to be able to come down here. That was what spurned the play away for Eric King. I think they could have taken it into this Lucian if there was no jungle presence from the Elise there. But thankfully, Elise comes in, they kind of spot it out, and both parties just walk their own way. Especially with Zoe kind of being around that area, she had the push in onto the Corki, so she could have definitely been down to that bottom
T26 is just going to end up going down there. They go for the hook onto him, but it's not going to be enough. Eric is here. Sandpaper looks like he's just going to sacrifice his life for that one. And that was, it looked like a pretty free. And actually, the cleanse as well as the ignite going away from Robbie Bob. He is just barely able to escape with that one. And now Unrequited has to try and just catch this mid wave, try to stop it from pushing as there is no TP. But that cleanse feels a little unnecessary there.
Maybe just a little bit. I'm not sure if the ignite had gone down in the proper meta tower or if it was still up at the time. Maybe he's terrified of last pick or something.
Dog gets hit up, does have to blow the flash immediately. Eric coming back down bot side. This guy has not left in the last minute, just constantly applying pressure. Dog steps right back up, has to build a flash, and he just used his TP to get back into lane, so he is going to definitely be suffering. Unrequited is here, no cocoon to land. Just a little bit of a volatile spit coming at Eric there.
Yeah, fortunately there are two people around here to at least try to get Dog a little bit of this experience and goal, but as you said, it's rough. The Pike here kind of waiting around the area, maybe looking for something too.
Use of the arcane. Ooh, just trying to utilize that true shot barrage. Not going to land, but now they just have so much pressure on this bot side. Eric is finally level 6 on this Jarvan. Could eventually look for a dive. There's a lot of wards being placed right now. And so far, Dawn Shock are playing a lot more aggressively, and it feels like it's finally kind of working for them. There's a lot of these ganks that are starting to really start to pay off for this team in comparison to what we saw last game.
Yeah, the substitution for Eric has certainly, at least we've seen more presence from him around the map, as you were saying. These ganks have gone off pretty well, especially into lanes that should probably be winning. You know, thinking Lucian, Nautilus, it should be fine into the Ezreal and the Pike. And then even things like this Jace into the Urgot matchup should be perfectly fine for Lotus, but it's just not going that way because of the presence that's been exerted by the Jarvan.
Yeah, and one of the things that we were talking about is we wanted to see Lotus try to push in this bot side so that T26 does not get roam priority. So he's not able to leave that lane, so that Ezreal is under pressure to try and defend the turret and needs his support there. But so far, I mean, he doesn't even have to leave the lane so far, and he's finding some advantages, right? They're getting a lot of these summoners down bot side. So now we should start to try to pivot around back to Eclipse and really towards this top side of the map, right? Unrequited really has tried to focus and try to provide a lot of counter ganks, but it feels like Eclipse is not really finding too many advantages, and we keep seeing in a lot of these trades that Soul Mario is already starting to go very even in these.
That it is. This Ninja Tabi, it's really good effective into the lethality and into the AD that Jace builds in this early game. Couple that with cooldown reduction and health on that Kindle gem, it just makes it so hard to deal with Urgot. Again, he's one of these champions that doesn't need like damage just to do damage. He doesn't need to build AD to do damage. All he has to do is hit his abilities. All he has to do is use his abilities at the right time. And these, the shotgun knees makes it so easy to take proper duels. It's just, there's no pressure. At minimum, it's pushing Jace away, preventing him from engaging onto the Urgot, and that's kind of what you have to respect. That's not where Jace wants to be. He wants to be bullying, he wants to be aggressive into the Urgot, and it's just not happening right now.
Robbie Bob needs to be careful. Both junglers are trying to sit around mid lane. It looks like the scuttle is going to go over in bot side over to Unrequited. But already an invade coming here from Eric, and we have to watch really where Robbie Bob positions, because again, he's kind of playing a sort of similar champion The poke is there, not obviously in spades like the Xerath would have. We already see the roam going in the top side. Eclipse going to be going in. Disdain's going to miss, but Zoe and Jarvan are here to try and gank. Eclipse flashing under the turret. Shupian ready in position to try and land the Sleepy Trouble Bubble. It looks like it's just going to be completely try to stop that from really going off with that flash.
Yeah, and I talked about earlier, wanting to track this Zoe, but that was a really, really well-timed roam because Corki had just backed, the wave had just been cleared and bounced off the turret.
Ooh, they're trying to dive on the bot lane, and Spider Queen's actually going to get hunted down by Elise, hunted by their own kind. The ult just barely not able to land on the Sandpaper. Death from below is going to find no one, and the dredge line back into that turret means that 2 kills going over to the side of Lotus Bloom.
A really good hourglass there, and again, a good roam from the Corki, able to take advantage of the fact that Sheepun had gone towards the top side of the map. They bring everyone down there, not lose nobody. 2 kills onto this bot lane. I think Elise, now neither of them, both went onto Elise. That's a good thing though. Elise definitely needs these kills to try to be more active around this mid game, and so really solid play there. Looks like Rift Herald might be the response. Yeah, it looks like Rift Herald the response. Right?
Rift Herald is taken, and again, there's a lot of focus going into this top side. They do have the ultimate. It looks like they're just trying to clear this wave. Soul Mario gets immediately knocked back thanks to the skies. And Eclipse just trying to find something. The Sleepy Trouble Bubble lands right there. There's no minions to try to protect. Ultimate coming out. You're just going to get ground up and chopped away. Soul Mario is able to get that kill with the help of 3 other members. The Rift Herald is also used in topside. They're only able to break the first half of that HP bar, so a lot of that turret plate is going to be split between the 3 of them. But overall, I mean, doesn't seem like too much of a worthwhile trade. I mean, yes, you're able to get that kill, but you're also wasting that Rift Herald.
Yeah, I think it was perfectly played there by Eclipse. He knew exactly what to do. He knew that everybody was kind of posturing towards the top side of the map and that Zoe had not returned to mid lane yet. And so thinking on his feet right there, just kind of adapting on the spot, he just immediately aggresses into this Urgot, tries to knock him down a pay. If he hadn't got hit by that the Sleepy Bubble Trouble, it would have been fine. He would have probably lived that and prevented any sort of regression into that tower. But keeping the wave away and keeping the Urgot out of pure kill range to start with stalled that long enough for Nautilus to get there and to prevent the Rift Herald from taking anything big. Really, really well played by Eclipse right there.
TP immediately coming out. T26 a little bit too far. Has to build a flash. Ghost Water dive. He's going to be looking for some kind of scuba material. Something to get him out of this pretty precarious situation. He's getting in. He's getting right into the enemy base at this point. He's already blown the flash. Maybe looking for an execute into the Nexus, but he's pulling 2 members. Not only is he just pulling Eclipse, but he's also got the TP out from him. And he's just pulling them all across, and this is just going to be an execute for them. Yes, they might be able to get some area of effect gold there, or experience, sorry. But Soul Mario now just gets free reign with this top side.
That he does. Just free reign around the map. He also, Lucian had to pull off that Rift Scuttler, so they lost that as well. Just for trying to chase down this Pike. It's very difficult to chase down Pike when you
Mario's as well. Dog is here. Somehow the hook doesn't land onto Eric Yang, but he's going to have to flash right back out. Shupian not able to land it. There's a minion wave right there, buddy. So the Sleepy Trouble Bubble is going to find nary a human.
Yeah. Really, really clean defense there from Dog and Sandpaper. Like you said, I don't know how that hook did not land on the Dog right there, but certainly really, really well kited by him, and then gets back under his tower without losing too much health. Response to his chasing that Pike earlier was another failed play on the bot side. Really done by Eclipse to know what to do.
They're not able to get too much, and like you were saying, he gets 4 plates right there, and really Urgot was only able to kind of press for 2. And if I'm going to take a look at that topside turret, he's not even able to. He almost breaks that 3rd plate. He's almost able to get that last one. But these are still the same plates that he got with that Rift Herald plate, so he really didn't get too much off of that. Now with the turret plates down, he could look to try and push, but that top side is looking very, very weak. Shupian is going to take a back here, and you have to watch where this bot lane is, because we've seen a lot of this action has just been completely around opposite sides of the map, and we saw last game that Robbie Bob and Shupian were kind of playing a game onto their own, and yet again we see Dog2 and Sandpaper getting some jungle assistance, or getting a lot of kind of presence. They're going to get spotted on this ward, stopping the back, so there's a TP available for Spider Queen here. Tries to get back into the lane. But already, Eric Yang getting right back into that top side, just trying to get some kind of jungle or vision priority. I don't think he's going to be able to get that scuttle. But really, this mid lane has been very even.
That it has. I do want to see right now a break in some action. Like eventually one of these towers has to go down at some point, and I want to see one of these teams be proactive and be the ones that can kind of find a play that breaks the first tower. To me, rotating a bot lane up this top side with this Lucian and this Nautilus would be almost an immediate death wish for that top tower. And I don't know if there's a great response on the opposite side because of all the vision control, especially when the dragon coming up around the area. To me, like I said, I would love to see a reset where they just go right for this top tower, try to take that immediately. But there's no Baron there. There's no Rift Herald also to take afterwards, so they kind of lose chain objectives, and they can kind of lose tempo. So the question is, like, where do they attack right now if that's the best place to go?
Take a look at the map. Look at where everyone is starting to converge. Eric is here. He's going to get caught immediately with a dredge line. Gets immediately canceled for that flag and dragon. Robbie Bob is going to be able to pick up that kill onto Eric. And we saw that most of the teams, both of them, Lotus and Dawn, were starting to converge around mid lane. A lot of these members from Lotus coming from the bot side, and then Eric just trying and answer that with T26. They're not able to find it, and this should be an Infernal Drake, at least in favor so far, at least prepped for them.
Yeah, really free Infernal Drake right here, and no TP possible here from the Urgot either, so there's no kind of chance of losing a 4v4 team fight without the Jace. And they have plenty of vision control on their side of the map, so there's no real possibility of a flank coming in. So yeah, really well done. I don't know why Eric was kind of caught out there, maybe looking for a gank under the Corki, but certainly try to find something, just got punished by this Nautilus immediately.
Yeah, sadly he was sitting on a ward and he had already used his sweeping lens there, so he's not able to find it. No control wards in inventory, but Eclipse now is going to get caught here. Nice use of the E to try and knock him away. Interrupts the W cast there, so not able to get too much purge damage. Some fancy feet coming out from Eclipse.
Yeah, he's just waiting for that phase rush proc after the Q comes through, so then he Qs to the opposite side of the Urgot and then immediately gets to run away with that phase rush. That's kind of why you take this piece out. Now Lee's kind of posturing up here as well.
Turret is low, Unrequited is here, but they also have the package from Robbie Bob. It's not going to be necessary. Great use of the repel, and they're immediately going back onto Sheepy, and Flash immediately comes out. Sleepy Trouble Bubble, sorry, right there, and Ignite as well, but Robbie Bob's going to be able to find 2 kills within the matter of a minute. They're going to try and trade for this bot turret, but second tier is now being invaded. Mid is the next turret here, or the next target for Lotus Bloom, and it feels like Dawn, that top side is starting to slip away from them yet again with Eclipse on this Jace, and just getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, not even the solo. So initially what was thought was that Eric got a few early ganks there, did some things, tried to put Soul Mario in a good position. It's still that case. There's still that possibility. It's just that now there's more pressure being applied for Eclipse's side, and as you saw, they're getting more opposite. They get 2 towers on the top side and a mid turret for just the 1 on the bottom side, plus the kill of the Urgot. They're just trading much more positively on the side of Lotus, and it's, you know, kind of helping them out here. Corki now sitting on 3 kills, huge in this game already. Finished the Trinity Force, working on his second, looks like Essence Reaver is his second item, and the Elise sitting on a Magic Pen already. It's going to start to be terrifying to be playing against this Lotus squad.
Yeah, and right now for Lotus Bloom, it is still within their grasp to try and kind of throw away some of this league. So where do you want to see them start to set up the priority? A lot of teams can definitely get very confused, or at least not necessarily know the correct steps that they should be able to take here when you've opened up kind of an odd semblance of turrets away, especially very early on, pre-20 minutes. So where do you want to see them? Because you already see that now the bot side is rotating towards the top. You have a very free turret available for Eclipse from this bot side.
Yeah, that it is. And again, he's not doing a terrible job into the Urgot, so shifting him down there should mean that he has plenty of space to work with. I like that they're invading right now onto the blue buff. They're going to try to get him vision. They want Jace to be able to push consistently into Urgot, and if they don't have vision control in this top side or the bottom side jungle, the red side, they're not going to be able to do so. Fight actually, no, they're going to pull out.
Unrequited, not able to land the cocoon, sadly. But for Dawn Shock, I mean, they're not that far behind. They're only about 5,000 gold. Yes, that is, you know, a pretty sizable lead, but this is still within arm's length. It just feels like, yet again, we're having some of those kind of, it feels like sort of a symptom of a problem where they're just kind of being led across the map. They're trying to respond to every single play, but they can only respond to one, or they can only respond to so many. There's so much map pressure coming out from Lotus Bloom. Where do you see them, and where do you see kind of where they want to be able to strike and where they should be able to find their stride?
Yeah, so to start with, I think there's a big issue going on with them, which is that they're not doing anything proactive. They're playing mostly reactive, as you said, but they have this Pike. They have things like this, like Jarvan. When they were being proactive early, they were able to find some success, but then ever since, they've kind of been sitting, waiting for the game to happen around them. I want to see them use this Pike pick. Now that these lanes are longer, you're going to see Jace pushed up, you're going to see Lucian pushed up, you're going to see Corki pushed up.
Oh, Mario gonna get dived under the turret. No respite for the dead right there. And Eclipse, he's just gonna be able to pick up a kill. Sandpaper, just great use of the Nautilus to try and tank the turret. Now T26 getting half of his health taken away. Passive's gonna be there to try and heal him for a little bit, but Eric as well. It feels like you were saying, very reactive, and while Soul Mario does go down, what are they getting across from this map? They're not able to push mid lane. No one is answering this top side, which is starting to build, and Dog does have TP, so he can just sit up there very comfortably, and while he does have Flash to be able to utilize as a protection,
yeah,
it really feels like, you know, this AD carry can kind of just AFK for the next 5 minutes. Doesn't need to really be there with the team, especially when you have such a deadly composition with Eclipse and Unrequited.
Absolutely. And in this whole play, that entire bot side play where Urgot went down and the tower goes down, were a product of them knowing. Oh,
that was just a lot of damage coming out from Jace.
Yeah, I can't do it. That's just like an EQ and then all of the autos coming out. Like that's not even the full combo from Jace either. But yeah, all of this was kind of a byproduct of them pushing into the jungle, getting the blue up, and then finding the vision as well. It's just such a clean. They set up the play, and then there was no respect there from Soul Mario, knowing that they had vision control on that bottom side, that he would get ganked by the Nautilus, by the Elise under his own power. So you gotta have to think those things through. And again, that's the whole byproduct of playing reactively. They don't know that that's going to be the setup until they already see it, and then when they react, it's too late.
So, you know, kind of to prevent that, look at how many wards are in this bot side.
Yeah, look at the bot
there
side.
is just a complete smattering of the map, completely red on that bot side. But to be able to stop this, you need to have that vision line set up, and it just feels like you were saying, Lotus Bloom are just getting really whatever they want across this map, whether it be vision denial, whether it be a couple kills onto maybe a solo laner here or there. Just feels like they kind of get their pick of the litter, whatever they want.
And to me, actually, believe it or not, their wards are a little bit too shallow. What I want to see them do with something like the Zoe and the Ezreal pick, and even like the Pike, is put your wards a little further up in the river, watch the champions that come into your jungle to put down vision. If you're able to spot out who it is that's putting down vision and whether or not there are reinforcements, you can get picks with the Pike, with the Zoe, very, very easily. And that's what you need to do. So like right here, where you obviously has backup.
Yeah, he has the Valkyrie as well as the package there available for an escape, but that's a lot of damage going on at T26. And we were saying, there's not a lot of tanky members here. Really, you're waiting for Soul Mario to start to become that mega bruiser Urgot that everyone knows and hates. And Jarvan, again, kind of like the Trundle we saw last game, he's not tanky enough really to start being able to really stop anything. And the Baron is going to be started. Dawn, Shock are going to have vision of this, and a lot of them are able to start coming over. Looks like it is going to be just going over to the side of Lotus Bloom, but the ultimate from Nautilus to try and stop Eric Ziyang, and the TP was awaiting for Soul Mario to arrive.
Yeah, pushing back the vision deeper into their jungle just little by little. Lotus is doing all the little things correctly, and as you saw right there, that's what they get for the vision control. But Jarvan has to be very careful walking up. He sees Nautilus, immediately ults him, and then there's nothing you can do. The Baron just got burned through way too fast by Elise, by Corki, by this Lucian. Like, what do? Like, there's nothing. You can't just run through your jungle because you don't have that vision control. You don't know what's waiting around the corner. So you have to pay respect, but you can't pay too much respect or you lose Baron. And now that's what's going to happen here. Now you have Corki and Jace in the side lanes alongside a Lucian, Nautilus, Elise in another lane, or they can run a 4-1 if they want to put Corki in the same lane. But like I said, they're going to spread this Baron out, and it's going to be very, very similar to what we saw last game, where all it takes is Jace going around to both side lanes, taking all of the towers.
Yeah, thankfully it's not, you know, like a Fiora just immediately one-shotting your turret with that Trinity Force. Just being able to just absolutely shred them. But you do have, you know, for the side of Dawn Shock, you do have a lot of insurance measures, right? You have Ezreal, who is starting to pick up some steam here with those 2 items. And, all right, nice job from Unrequited right there. I wish we can get a zoom in on that one, but it looks like they might be trying to look for something. T26 immediately hits the Ghost Water dive just to try and clear some of that vision. But coming back to it, we do have a lot of insurance policies, right? Like, Urgot is not super far behind, and he still has that fear beyond death. Like we were saying, fear from below, or death from below, sorry, from T26 is still very, very scary, despite not having a single lethality item quite yet. And there are still some champions that have, you know, like I was saying, an insurance policy for them.
care. That is. It's also interesting lane assignments. I don't know if you're seeing what's going on. They put Urgot up against this Lucian, who's in a solo lane. Obviously, that's something Lucian's been able to do for a while. And then Jace is by himself, and he was into the Ezreal. That's just a matchup you don't want to see, because Ezreal, he has the Iceborne, but it's not enough to protect him with Jace. The way it's clear.
True shot barrage, death from below, or sorry, yeah, death from below, death from beyond. There it is. And a flash from Unrequited is what it's going to need just to try and avoid getting killed. But another turret being taken. All the outers are gone here. 6-1 in turrets. 10,000 gold in favor of Lotus Bloom. Feels like death is knocking on Dawn Shock's door, but they still have some time to respond. 226 trying to find engage onto Sandpaper. It is what it is. They're going to try and find a lot of burst damage. Death from below is not able to execute. They're able to find one. Flash from Eclipse. Shupin is doing some damage, gets a double ignite there. And Eclipse could start to tick down, but they're losing top turret. That is going to be a flash, as well as utilizing that more sparkles from the side of Shupin and just trying to find that kill. Robbie Bob utilizing the Valkyrie just to try and cut away, but Baron is just pushing and slaughtering the base of Dawn Shock.
Yeah, they're moving so effectively around the map. You see, when one area applies pressure, everybody else kind of pulls off or sets their waves ready to go in. You saw them kind of shift up, try to prevent the Lucian and the Elise from pushing in on the top side. And then their bot lane got pushed in. So then they shift immediately. They overcommit towards this Jason, towards this Nautilus. They do get 2 kills, but they lost 2 inhibitors for it. They lost them to the Corki, to 3 members. Like that, you can't do that. You can't be willing to take that. You have to give away something somewhere. And to me, I don't think you need to double down onto Jace. Obviously, they got a pick. They prevented the Baron push from going any further, but certainly they're just getting out-rotated right now. They need to be a little bit smarter about where they put people to make sure they don't have to worry about losing these inhibitors every time they want to respond to somebody.
Yeah, perhaps as soon as you're able to get Sandpaper and maybe trade a lot more damage where you force Eclipse to get that back off, then we can say, hey, you know, it's a pretty worthwhile trade. You are still able to kind of come back to the lanes and try to prevent at least so many inhibitors going down. Like you were saying, and like we saw last game, really, a lot of overextension from Dawn. It feels like they're kind of being pushed into a corner and they're just trying to get what they can. They're just trying to get whatever kind of advantages they can find. 226, even with a pretty spare hook kind of going nowhere, you need to be able to find something. Robbie Bob already has the package up, and with that Trinity Force, look at how brave he can play. So far up in the lane, Eclipse looking to try and trade onto Soul Mario, and now they're looking to try and invade on, or sorry, start to siege onto this last inhibitor turret. Trinity Force available, all 3 are broken, and the base from Dawn is in shambles. Top side is going to start pushing with this next wave coming in. Mid lane is already here and kicking down the doors. Dawn are in complete defense mode, and they need to find a miracle fight here. So many of them already at 50% HP. Thanks how much flank. Eric finds a flash and immediately comes back out the culling, almost kills him, but the accelerated shock blast is gonna find it, going in under the turret. A quick 2-0 here, 27 minutes, and Lotus Bloom a little less deadly, but a lot more of a victory here as they are finally able to close out this series 2-0 in the quarterfinals.
It didn't go spectacularly for them, at least in terms of like laning phase and even some of those early ganks doing really well from Eric. I thought that was the positive part of the game. But these rotations, it was just smart macro play from the side of Lotus that kind of got them the win. They're around the map. They're taking care of what they needed to. They're making smart decisions about when and where to apply pressure, kind of preventing any momentum from being generated by the side of Dawn. So I thought it was just really clean play from them, at least in terms of that sense. It wasn't the best in terms of micro play to start the game. As you saw, Eclipse died 3 times before he even got a kill, but still, it doesn't matter. He won the game because of just pure macro. Well done.
Yeah, that was a really great game. Both 2-game series, it felt like, you know, this team, Lotus Bloom, they were able to just pick apart Dawn and really just try to lead them across the map as we saw. And really, again, I think a lot of this does have to go to kind of like the jungle here. We saw Unrequited, in both games, really try to lead this jungle matchup in both the Jarvan as well as the Elise.
Yeah, I think Unrequited was definitely deserving of at least some of an MVP. Robbie Bob also was clean through both games. I thought he played 2 really strong performances on these 2 champions. One was Corki. I think game 1 was the Xerath, right? Yeah. I thought his impact across the map was felt, and I thought he was doing ridiculous amounts of damage on both the champions. So both of them, to me, I think were really, really strong. But as you said, Unrequited, I think he was honestly the dominating force behind both lanes.
So we got to give an MVP here, right? You said maybe Unrequited, maybe Robbie Bob. Robbie Bob again wasn't the flashy player, but he felt like a very much like a rock, right? A great foundation for him, never necessarily losing, and definitely finding a lot of advantage in his lane. So if you had to give it to one, tell me, man, Rebel Fox, give it.
Actually, so I it's gonna sound stupid, but I actually think Eclipse should be given the MVP. Like Unrequited and Robbie Bob both had great performances across both games, but to me, Eclipse in game 1, like the quadra kill and a couple other things, was really clean. And in this one, every little macro play that was being used around the map was off the back of Jace winning his matchup. He did the most damage in the game. This is a man who died 3 times before having a kill anything else in the lane. He still did the most damage. He was still the one making these kind of macro decisions. So to me, I think Eclipse was actually a big part of this as well.
Hey, I can definitely see it. I will say, Jace having most damage is kind of like Ezreal having a lot of damage pre-15 minutes. Like, you're trading a lot, you're using a lot of spells, and especially into someone like Urgot, who has a pretty health pool, especially with that Kindle gem and Tabby's first. I'm expecting him to do at least a little bit more damage than maybe than the Lucian and the Nautilus. But I mean, I will agree. Like, Eclipse just having absolute dominating side lane pressure and really kind of showcasing that 4-1 strategy that teams tend to have a lot of difficulty with getting pulled across the map. We didn't see the 1-3-1 all too often until that Baron started to kick in. But Eclipse, I mean, had a pretty great game, just macro-wise. I mean, the score line, yes, whatever, but it kind of is reminiscent of kind of like a tank player, right? Where they have not an amazing score line, but just the way that they're able to play the game and really just pull people across the map felt really, really great.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't think it was the stat line that won it for him. It was just his contribution to the game in both of them in terms of what he did in macro and then in micro, and his ability to pull pressure really was what kind of did it for me.
All right, and is there any closing thoughts you really have for this series or for this game? This is going to be the last series for the quarterfinals. This does mean that Lotus Bloom are going to go ahead and face Supernova tomorrow at 2:30 EST PM. So make sure you guys tune in here, back again at Upsurge Esports. But Rebel Fox, any last words on this?
No, yeah, I thought this was a couple of really clean wins in terms of just gameplay from the side of Lotus. Like, coming into tomorrow, it's going to be a fantastic series up against, I forget, who you said Supernova? Yeah, against Supernova. That's not one that Supernova can sleep on. They played very, very cleanly in this game, especially if they clean up some of the draft from game 1, some of the micro play from game 2. It's going to be competitive.
Yeah, definitely. And for tomorrow's broadcast, we are going to have a new versus Maryville tomorrow for the semifinals. So that is a very, very great match to watch, and you definitely do not want to miss that. But from everyone here at the broadcast over at Upsurge, we want to thank you guys for coming out and tuning in tonight. Everyone from Upsurge, myself, Rebel Fox, and everyone from the production team, want to thank you guys for joining us, and have a great night tonight.